I talk about being in alignment in my content quite a bit because it is extremely, extremely important if you want to have a fulfilled life in whatever area of life you are looking at. So if you are having a lot of challenges in your career right now, you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not feeling happy, it's because you're out of alignment. You're doing something that's out of alignment with who you really are at your core. When we are in alignment, things actually get a lot easier. Somebody who's fully in alignment can often look really lucky in life. They're likely doing a whole bunch of things to make it appear as though they're lucky, but one of the biggest things they are doing is they are in alignment. So something happened this weekend in my personal life. I actually want to share it because there was a lot of I think it's a really great example of what living in alignment can look like. And it's in an area of life I think most of us can relate to. It had to do with my home. And there were a number of lessons that really came through this weekend that I want to share. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the whole video. So I got up Saturday morning and I had planned to go appliance shopping. I need a new fridge and a new dishwasher. And I don't know if you're like me, but I don't really love spending my time shopping for appliances. Not my idea of fun. So before I left the house, I asked for help. I just simply said in my head, can I get what I need and what I want as easily and as quickly as possible? And, to be honest, I didn't say it to anybody in particular. I just said it in my head, just made the request. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on in the video and why that's important to really do that. So anyways, I went out. And the first store I went to, I walk in there and the salesperson comes up to me and he says, okay, what are you looking for? And we started talking about the fridge first. I said, basically, these are the dimensions. This is my first store. I'm just starting my process. You're my first place today. And so he asked me a couple little questions, not a lot. And he's like, okay, well, let me go see what I think, might work for you. So he comes back, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes later, and he says, I think this fridge here, and he walks over to a certain particular fridge, would work for your situation. And I look up and it's actually the exact same brand of fridge that I have right now, which has worked really well for me. It's just getting old. I think it's on its last leg, so I want to replace it. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's an interesting coincidence. How I didn't tell him what brand it was, but he directed me right to basically the replacement fridge for it. So then we started talking about it and he was telling me, the features and everything else. And then we talked about size and he's like, okay, well, it's going to be a bit bigger than the one you see here. And so I looked at the price, it was on sale. And I said, okay, so what's the price of the bigger one? And he goes and checks, and he comes back and he actually gives me a price that's less than the one that's listed on the fridge that I'm looking at. And I looked at him and I said, but it's bigger and it's less. And he's like, yeah, I know, weird, right? I'm like, okay. And it was right in the ballpark of what I'm looking to spend, right? So I'm like, well, this is interesting. This would actually really work for me. So then I'm like, hey, well, what about dishwashers? And he's like, and I didn't tell him a thing, not a thing about dishwashers. And he's like, but I knew what brand I wanted in my head. With the fridge, I had no idea what brand I wanted. With the dishwasher, I knew I wanted a Bosch. So I had that in my head, but I did not tell him. And he's like, you know what? He's like, we just got a shipment in on some Bosches, and honestly, he's like, they're an amazing dishwasher. He goes and tells me why, and he's like, if we just got them in, and if you don't get it, now it's a 6 to 8 month wait for another Bosch dishwasher. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I came here looking for a Bosch dishwasher right in my head. So this feels like a really obvious solution, right? This makes sense. So I said to him, okay, so when can this all be delivered, and what are your delivery charges and all that? And he's like, well, if you buy in the next couple of days, delivery is free. Now, in this day and age, I don't find that many places offer free delivery, especially with the price of gas. So I'm like, free is lovely, right? So I'm kind of just standing there thinking to myself, this is all working out. Everything he's saying is totally feeling like what I need, what I want. It's well within the range of what I was expecting to pay. So anyways, he printed out the information on the appliances and I left there and I got in my car and I thought, maybe I should just get them. It seems to be working out. And so I went on my phone and I Googled. I thought, well, I'm going to do a quick, search on reviews to see what kind of reviews both those appliances have and check on the prices. Is that like well within ballpark? Is it a good deal? What is it, right? I spent maybe 3 or 4 minutes looking and I'm like, okay, they've got some great reviews and wow, okay, prices, that's actually a good price. I'm like, what do I do, right? Like, this is one stop. It was 15 minutes. So I actually drove to the next store. I thought, I'm just gonna comparison. I'm just gonna do some more shopping. I'm just gonna compare. So I drove to the next store and I sat in my car, I put the car in park and I turned it off and I sat there and went, Andrea, what are you doing? You asked for this to be easy. You asked for this to line up. It just was easy and it just lined up. And here you are making it harder on yourself by going to another store. And I actually thought to myself, I know how this is gonna go. I could spend my whole day looking and I'll probably end up back at that first store. Why? Because it made perfect sense on every point. Like every point it hit. So I actually turned my car back on. I did not go in that store and I had to drive my daughter to work. So I hopped home and I actually went to my phone and I added up the price of the 2 appliances and how much tax would be and everything else. I wanted to see what it'd come to. And I'm like, it's actually less than I was thinking I would be spending. Isn't that interesting? How often does that happen, right? I sat there and I thought to myself, like, I expect this to be harder. Why am I making this a bigger deal than it really is? So I drove my daughter to work and I literally drove right back to the store. And I walked in there and I'm like, okay, let's just do this, right? And so it's the same salesperson. So he's on his computer and he's, ringing everything up, taking all my information. He's like, sorry, I'm taking so long. He's like, but I'm trying to see if I can save you some extra money. And I'm like, oh, that's really nice. So I go to pay for it. Of course, the price comes up on the Interact machine and it's like $150 less than what I had calculated it to be. And I'm like, okay, this could not go any better. Like, in spending less than I thought it would, I'm not spending my whole day. Like, I'm done. I paid for it. I left the store. He's like, they'll be ready in 2 to 3 weeks. I'll give you a call. And I got in my car and I'm like, this is what alignment looks like. This is what alignment looks like. I think we're so wired for struggle. And for so many years, I was so wired for struggle that I sometimes question it myself. Like I did on Saturday. I sat in my car questioning it, going, I think I should go shopping. I think I should shop around and see if I can, find something that's better for me or whatever. Truth of the matter is, I got what I needed within the price that I wanted. Everything made sense. And that really is what alignment looks like. And so I had a moment of just appreciating how easy that was. And also really recognizing, this is something I want to mention in this video, it's really important, is I asked for help. This is something we don't do enough. We do not ask for help enough. You can ask for help from whomever you want. God, the universe, I don't care. Pick who you want to ask for. But start asking for help because it works. I can't tell you how many times I've tried this in my life and it works. It really does. I don't do it enough, and I had that recognition this weekend that I don't ask for help enough. And so I've really now made it a practice, certainly starting right now, and I started actually Saturday doing this. But I wanted to share this experience in this video because I do believe that so many of us are so used to struggling. When it comes to our career, we're just used to it. We think it's the way it's supposed to be, but it's not. Life is not supposed to be this hard. It really is about getting in alignment, asking for help, but also being open to receive the help. You see, if I had spent my whole day then going to different stores, checking out everything, what I was effectively communicating to God, the universe, again, to whomever you believe in, is that I don't actually have faith. I actually have no faith in this at all. So I also knew in that moment on this weekend that I had a choice. I could choose to have faith in the process and faith in myself and what I was doing, or I could be continually questioning everything, but in that also continuing my struggle. So I hope this has helped. My little story has helped you in some way, just to help give a great example, I think, of what living in alignment really can be like.